What's going on, you guys? I didn't actually film an intro to this video because I wasn't sure where this video was going to end up as far as the build goes. Basically what this video is all about is taking the parts from the car that I wrecked and swapping them over into a new car, as well as a ton of fabrication, make this car drag strip ready for the rest of the season. Let's get right into this video. I did all the setup work off camera because it's a pain in the butt. I didn't want you guys to have to sit through that, but the rear end is under the car. So this is kind of our setup down here. We got a bunch of blocks and stuff holding her up. Everything's leveled out. Ladder bars are even, like perfectly level. Those brackets are perfectly level at an angle like this. Pinion right now is essentially neutral. There's an adjustment bar just back there behind the brick, so we'll adjust the pinion angle with that. Everything's pretty much set to 0. I think we're gonna weld her in like this, and then we'll adjust it as we set the ride height and all that stuff. I think this ride height will be pretty good. The tire should probably come about to the top of the wheel well, and these fenders on this Camaro specifically, they were cut out right here. They were cut and actually moved out a little ways for a bigger tire. I'm gonna go burn these in real quick. I already got them tacked up and the measurements are still perfect. We're gonna burn them in, get this thing done. Brackets are fully welded in now. I'm going to show you what the welds look like. We're going to get after this thing. There's my welds. I don't think they're half bad for just some hick that taught himself how to weld. I will take that all day. Yeah, bud. Yeah. I am actually going to do one other thing with these brackets. I believe I'm planning on boxing these in on top and on the bottom here, just to add more strength to them. Pretty much this whole ladder bar setup has been homemade so far. I just used the ladder bars that were left in the car from the older rear end, used their mounting points on the chassis, and I just made my own brackets and shock mounts. Had my sister draw them. She's a CAD designer, and I got them cut out on the laser. So now I'm actually starting to reassemble the engine. Start with the headers. The headers back on, get the turbos mounted up, make sure that we don't got to cut anything out of this. I want to leave everything as intact as we can. I'm going to start with that, get the headers and turbos on, the oil drains, the oil feed, all that stuff just hooked back up. We got to wait for Adam to do his wiring magic. We're changing a bunch of the wiring this time. We're making it better, safer, all around next level stuff. I'm gonna get the turbos all mounted up again tonight. I'm gonna press out. There's an axle over there in the press. I gotta press a bearing off of that axle. Yeah, we'll go from there. I got the turbo headers back on the car, and now I'm cleaning up the turbos. So this is what originally made me concerned about the engine maybe having like a hydrolock piston or bent rod or something like that. In the back of these turbos, when I took the exhaust off, you can see there's like some unhealthy looking smoothie, you know, like one of those green smoothies that you're supposed to drink to, like, I don't know, be healthy, that look absolutely disgusting. Yeah, except this one's made out of swamp. The swamp smoothie in the back of the turbo, I was concerned that basically it chewed up a bunch of grass and water and stuff and ate it. I think the motor's fine though. We kind of looked through it, looked alright. I'm gonna clean up these turbos because they are full of chew. It looks like somebody used them as a blender. Dirt, grime, oil, just everything. It's not actually that bad. And it's just this stuff on the outside. The inside's honestly relatively clean. That probably does mean that some stuff went through the motor. And these turbos were leaking a lot too, so just driving around can cause this too. I do got to replace the seals on these turbos at some point. I blew them out as soon as I got them because we didn't know what we were doing at the time, and we didn't have any sort of restrictor on the turbo. The engine at that time was making way too much oil pressure, like 120 some pounds on just idle. Kind of sacked out the turbos really quickly. They both look pretty good. I'm gonna stick these in the parts cleaner, get them cleaned up. We jumped a little bit ahead here. The turbos are back on. All the exhaust is set up the way it should be. Adam is currently working on the wiring. He's making some fancy switchboard deal. I don't know what you're doing, yep, but he's doing a good job. That's all I know. I got a screen mount right there. Putting the Dominator just underneath the dash. I'm actually putting the old original dash out of Nightmare back in this car. That is actually right here. So that's the original dash out of Nightmare. I've had it sitting in a shed for years now, and We're gonna put it back in because I like the way it looks. Holy cats, it's windy. Dude, we're gonna get like sucked up out here or something. Holy shit. It's breezy as frick. Freaking hat just got this cleaned. Well, should we get a brewski and go sit on the porch or what? Gonna have a tornado tonight. Fuck that. Yeah, I bet it's gonna come down. You would not believe.
You feel one raindrop and then all of a sudden it's just like a waterfall.
As you guys seen earlier, I cut these brackets out at work and welded them in the other night, kind of mocking everything up here. So we're working with a ladder bar for the rest of this year. May 4 link this car at some point, or at least this season. We're gonna run the ladder bar, see how we like it, and if the ladder bar works real good, I might just leave it be a ladder bar car. There's nothing wrong with it. Another thing that's going on is I'm taking out the elephant bar in the back. I gotta pull this bumper off, cutting a hole back there, and taking the elephant bar out because this thing weighs like 50 pounds. And I have a tubular one there that I made a year or two ago. I'm gonna run that one in this car as well. So the next thing I gotta do is I got a radiator and intercooler stuffed in the car there. What I need to do to fit the radiator, I need to cut out the bottom of this, and then I'll box this in. And then this guy, I'm gonna have to cut out here and there, kinda. I'll add this back in maybe. Cut it out in a circle to fit the intake tube through. Being that I want everything to fit under the hood kind of like it was, that's what I'm gonna have to do. Kind of got everything mocked up where it needs to go ish. Main thing is just keeping this guy on there. He's good and tight, and then that'll kind of point to where everything else has to go. I had to drop the radiator down a little bit. I'm gonna put the other intercooler pipes on the ends from off the turbos, and by doing that it'll dictate exactly where that intercooler has to go. And we're gonna start making some brackets for this thing. That is cool as hell. So what we're kind of doing right now is Adam's working on running the wiring through the firewall. He's going to be drilling that out. I don't know if I showed you guys this already. I mounted and made these nice little brackets. The intercooler mocked up the radiator with the old radiator, made everything kind of fit. So I kind of jumped ahead a little bit here. I put the intake on, putting it on, I guess. I got to bolt it down yet, just because it's a real mess and I'm working by myself right now. We got a hole punched in the firewall and everything's coming up underneath the intake, which really gives this engine bay a clean look. It used to come out in a mess right there, and I hated it, absolutely hated it. We put it right behind the intake, so then all the mess is just tucked underneath the dash. Once the radiator shows up, I'm going to throw the new one in, weld some brackets for that. Next, we're going to be modifying the gas tank to fit between the frame rails. I jumped a little bit ahead here. I just went and did this. I didn't think I even recorded anything about it. I want to use the same fuel cell. They don't make one the size that I want, big enough to hold that much fuel. The trunk here is just a tad bit smaller than what I had. What I did is I cut essentially 2 sides off the fuel tank, shortened it, and then welded it back together. Here's the tank. I welded these bungs on too. I don't think the welds are terrible. I mean, they ain't good, but they ain't bad either. I already checked for leaks. First I put water in it. There's no leaks with water. And I put like 15 gallons of fuel in it too. There's no leaks there either. And I let it sit for like a couple hours. That thing is fuel tight. And I had to make some modifications back here to accommodate some things. I had to move that bracket forward and everything up here. And I also put in this bar right here. This is going to be the bar that the shocks are mounted off of. I'm going to have 2 shocks right there and there. That's kind of what it looks like underneath. The other thing I'm doing is I'm removing the bearing off of one of these axles, because it just doesn't feel right. I don't know if there's rust in there from it just sitting, because the rear end was like completely submerged in the ditch and the rear end actually filled up with water. I don't know if there's just some rust in the bearing or something, but I'm replacing the bearing. I'm just pulling it off in the press right now. I had to friggin' drill a hole in my press to do this darn thing. Now I'm getting it back on. There we go. That axle's got a new bearing stuffed on, and we're ready to rock. Now I'm gonna go throw that axle in the car and test fit it, throw some brakes on her, get this thing down on 4 wheels. Axles are installed. The next thing I'm doing, I'm mounting the radiator up here. I already have the intercooler mounted up kind of where I want it. Now I'm just doing the radiator, which is behind it. I'm going to be putting these brackets on right here. So I'm going to tack it up there, tack it down there. Same thing on this side, one here, one there. Weld them in, and then the radiator tabs are going to go mount up to those brackets. I'm probably just going to put like some 1/4 bolts or something through them. Once the radiator is all mounted up, I can finish up the whole engine bay. Got a little bit of fire. There we go. Stack some dimes up there and got some down there. Now I just got to do the same thing to that side. We'll be golden. Got a little bit fired up here again, but we're jumping ahead a little bit. Here's where we're at. The radiator is mounted up. Got them things. Got some dimes stacked on there and down there. 2 bolts holding it in, one on each side. And then the intercooler is mounted up on some brackets that I made previously. Now I just gotta stick these pipes on, stick this guy in, the main intake pipe. Everything else is hooked up. I put radiator hoses on and everything. It looks really clean up here. We're really trying to keep it as clean as possible. There's no wiring mess over there like the other one. We actually put the wires behind the intake and then they run under the intake. We're just trying to keep this car looking really nice and really clean, because hopefully I never have to build another car with these same internals. We're trying to make this one as nice as we can. I got some fancy wiring stuff for Adam to work with. It's pretty sweet. And it is all put on. Charge pipe is all on there. Everything's tightened up and fitment looks good. That's what we're rolling with right here. Sorry about the bad camera angles. It looks pretty sick. Now we just got to throw the nose back on this rig and this thing is going to look perfect. So I did a whole bunch of setup. The rear end, I have the coilover brackets are tacked in. Kind of show you guys what I'm working with, and I'm going to burn them in. So this is what we're working with. This guy's tacked in. I leveled it this way and this way, and I centered it as much as I could on both sides. So these guys, these holes are the same distance from the center of the axle on both sides. To just kind of help with setup, I put this bar in here. Just a little bit of ready rod stuffed in between there with some nuts on it, just to kind of hold everything straight while I mocked everything up. That's kind of what it looks like, so I'm going to go burn them in. And that one's done, so on to the next one. I'm going to end the video off right here, you guys. If you guys want to help me out in any way, the best way you can do that is sharing my videos with your buddies and seeing if they like my content like you guys do. Thank you guys for watching. I got a bunch of more content coming up here soon, and I'll see you guys later.